Secretary, and I am a speech and language therapist, and I work with children with autism. And I have been thinking about play a lot recently, because I think that sometimes when we think about toys and we think about what play is, we can have quite a narrow idea of what that is, and then it can be very difficult if your child doesn't play in a traditional way or in the way that you expect them to. So often when we think about play, we think about toys like this. Or toys like this. But there are many children, particularly the ones that I work with, who might not be interested in toys like that. And in fact, the things that they might want to play with are things that can be surprising for parents, because they're not what you expect for them to play with. For example, this radiator. So I know many children who like to rub their hands up and down the radiator, hit the radiator, and this is much more interesting for them than any of the things like that. So I wanted to just kind of talk a little bit about this, because I think it's really difficult if you have these wonderful toys and you show them to your child and they're not interested and they're just doing this. What can you do? So for me, I think first of all, you have to think a little bit about what is play. Play is not actually about the toy. Play is about the child really enjoying doing something, and we want to be able to enjoy doing that with them. So in my head, I have whatever the child is doing. In my head, I have, how am I going to do that with the child? How am I going to share that experience with the child so that they enjoy me as much as the radiator, or that they share their enjoyment of the radiator with me? And I think that can be really, really, really difficult. So when a child, for example, is doing this, I'll just watch them for a while to try and see, what are they doing? How are they feeling? And I'll be thinking, how can I have a role in this too, without taking it away from them, without trying to introduce what I want them to do, to like have no agenda other than to just share that with them. So I think that where I would start is just to position myself at the same kind of level as the child, and just be near them, so that when they're going like this, if they do look up at me, I'm there. I can notice that they're looking at me, and I can acknowledge that by smiling, by making a noise, by saying something, and we will have some eye contact, and they might smile at me. And if they know I'm there, then they might start to look at me more, and I can keep on acknowledging that. Oh, when they're doing that, just making a noise or smiling, as I said, or laughing with them if they're laughing, but being part of that experience without anything else, without trying to shape it, without trying to take over, just being there with the child and sharing their pleasure. I know that probably sounds really strange, but it can be very powerful to have that eye contact, to have that sharing of laughing and smiling, and to be connecting with your child. It doesn't matter what the child is doing, it is that connection that's really important. So then, of course, I would want to be a little bit more involved in that. So I'm going to start there. And then I'd be thinking, well, what can I do to join in a little bit more with the child? And I might try something like, if there's a little pause, so when they've done this, and if they look at me and everything, and even if they don't look at me, if there's just a little pause after that, I'll do it too. And I'm not expecting them to do anything. I'm not expecting them to notice me. Obviously, in the end, I would like them to notice me, but I'm not going to push that onto the child at all. So I would take my turn, and then they're probably going to take their turn too. And usually what happens after a while is they start to wait for me to do this. And they start to notice, when I do that, she's doing it too. And then they start to look at you more, and then they start to really, really share that enjoyment with you, because actually they're controlling it. You are mirroring what they're doing. And when they realise you're not going to take anything away, nothing uncertain is going to happen, they're in control, that is wonderful. They feel very safe and secure in that predictable routine, and it can be really good fun doing that. Although it might seem very strange to you, and it might not be what your friends are doing with their children, it is a wonderful way to connect with a child. And as I said, you don't need these things. They might not be interested in that. It doesn't matter what they're doing. It's about watching what they're doing thinking how you can become a part of that, how you can connect with your child in some way with what they're doing, and how you can gradually build on your role with the child. It's like being a detective, just watching very closely, thinking, what are they doing? What can I do to join in? And then trying that. And if it goes wrong, try something else. There's not one way to do this, there's just finding a way to join in and to be part of what your child is experiencing.